Hi guys, welcome to Guru Beauty. I'm Jodie and today I'm reviewing for you a foundation from Illamasqua. This is their skin-based foundation and you may have heard some reviews about this product already on YouTube. It has been around for a while. What inspired me to first purchase the Illamasqua skin-based foundation was a great review that I saw from Laura, AQUA Lollipop 26. I think it was on her blog, and also another positive review that I saw quite a while back from Lisa SZ. So I did do quite a bit of online research for my shade match. Where I live here in Perth, Western Australia, there is no Illamasqua in any retail stores over here. Illamasqua does have a shade reference chart available on their own site. I'm going to post a direct link to that down below, and it sort of compares shades of different foundations from other brands. If you can match up what your shade is, say with MAC Studio Fix foundation, it'll tell you what the Illamasqua skin-based foundation equivalent is. And I do want you to be aware that I have seen mixed reviews in terms of how accurate that chart is. Most reviews that I saw on Makeup Alley did say that those colours often ran quite fair. So just be careful of that. I trawl sites like Sephora, Makeup Alley, and I look inside the comments. I might do a search for NC25 or just NC or something and see what people's feedback is. A lot of people will include in their feedback on those sites, I'm an NC25 and shade 8 was just perfect. That's how I decided on ordering shade 8, and I have found that to be quite an excellent match. That is the shade that I am wearing right now. That is the shade that I apply in this review, and I'm very happy with that shade. I do also have the 8.5, which is a much yellower based foundation, and that match is a fine match for me as well. As I do get a bit of a tan, I do get a little bit more yellow based, and then also I do have the limited edition with gold shimmer, the shade called AU, as in the gold from the element table. Illamasqua sells this foundation in 24 different shades, as well as a white or highlighter shade, and then that AU sort of goldy bronzy shade that you can either mix with your foundation or use it over or under or whatever you want. So excellent shade range. And then when you are looking on Illamasqua's website, it does sort of tell you according to each shade number if it's more pink, if it's more yellow based, that kind of thing. So that should help you with the buying process. But wherever you can, as always, I recommend going to a counter, getting color matched, getting a sample, taking it and using the whole sample for at least a few days to see not only how the colour match looks in artificial light, natural light throughout the day, but also to see how your skin reacts to that product. So without any further ado, I'm going to start with the packaging of the Illamasqua skin base. So what you get here from Illamasqua, I think it's great. It is all plastic, so it's nice and light and travel friendly. This is not going to smash in your luggage. It's not going to smash when it hits the bathroom tiles. I actually like that quite a bit. Some people feel that for the price point, the packaging is cheap and could be more luxurious feeling. Doesn't bother me at all. As long as the package functions and dispenses the product in an appropriate manner, I'm happy as Larry. So I do really like this packaging for the skin-based foundation. What I also like about this product is that although it does not have a pump, it has a really handy squeezy tube, and I find that it dispenses an appropriate amount of foundation. It doesn't come running out. You do have to squeeze the tube to get product out, and I like the amount that comes out with very little effort from this foundation, so that you can dispense a very little amount or a larger amount according to what your needs are. I also really like the fact that it has a flat bottom. You know, whether it's shampoo or hair lotion or foundation, anything that doesn't have a pump, I prefer that it's standing upside down. When you get to less than halfway through a product, I'm always going to want to stand it upside down so that the product is easier to get out. Now, if you look at something like a Revlon Color Stay, once you start standing that upside down, it's going to pull in the cap, it's going to start getting messy. Some products don't even have a proper flat lid, so that when you do want to store it upside down, it's always going to lean to one side and flop around. So I love the fact that this is actually made to stand upside down and on a flat base, so that you can utilize that squeezy applicator as well as possible. Another thing I really like about this packaging is that you can see how much product you have left. So you can see when you're close to the bottom. You can obviously, of course, feel how much product is left in there, particularly because it is plastic packaging. You can really feel when it starts getting light, but also see it in the relatively transparent packaging. So what does Illamasqua say about this foundation? They actually say that this is inspired by the cult Asian market beauty balm creams. They say that it's a brand new refined formula unlike anything on the UK market. It's easily blendable, it effortlessly creates a perfect complexion, and like the entire Illamasqua foundation range, is undetectable in a professional HD environment. It's suitable for all skin types, it smooths, softens and conditions your skin whilst providing natural buildable coverage. They say it's the ultimate skin realism foundation. So this foundation definitely does hold its shape for the most part when you do squeeze it out. I always shake this before I use it just to make sure that all of the ingredients are mixed in nicely. Now, while they do say that it's BB cream inspired, I'm not exactly sure why. So first of all, BB creams, particularly from the Asian market, nearly always contain an SPF. This foundation does not contain an SPF, so please beware if you are using it. Definitely apply a moisturizer or a primer with SPF or both before you use this foundation. A lot of BB creams on the Asian market also include ingredients that are whitening, brightening, anti-aging, that kind of thing. This foundation does not contain any kind of skin therapeutic ingredients, it's just a foundation. So they're sort of the main points that make a BB cream different from a foundation, and this foundation does not include either of those things. So they do say that it's just inspired. I'm not sure why, other than you need very little of this product to get very decent coverage on your face. So that is the one thing that I see that they have in common. Very little of this foundation goes definitely a long way to cover up without being mask-like. This foundation has a pleasant fragrance to it. It definitely does have fragrance in it, but nothing that's very strong. It's certainly not as strong as a Chanel foundation, maybe slightly floral, nothing too much. It's not going to bother most people, but it does definitely have a fragrance to it. So this product does have a shelf life of 24 months from opening, which is probably longer than some other foundations. I will also mention here that it is made in Thailand, while quite a few other products from Illamasqua, I believe, are made in Germany. I will include a full list of ingredients down in the description bar. I do want to mention though that this is a water-based foundation. So the very first ingredient listed is water. It is followed by cyclopentasiloxane, butylene glycol, glycerin, hydrogenated polyisobutene, and then mineral oil. So it's about the fifth or sixth ingredient in there, mineral oil. While it is a water-based foundation, it does contain mineral oil and a whole bunch of different types of silicones. So primary ingredient water does contain some oil and quite a few different silicones. I do show you my application today over a silicone based primer that is from Dermalogica. I do want to also mention my skin type. My skin type is combination to oily. If you have dry skin, please be taking my review with a grain of salt. We do not have the same skin type, and it's pretty likely that you're going to get a different result. My main skin concerns are that oil. I'm always looking for oil control. I do have hyperpigmentation, so I'm always looking for something that's going to give me at least a medium coverage. I do want not only that oil control, but something that's going to last all day. I'm a mum who gets ready early every morning and works a very long full-time day and then I come home to the kids, and sometimes if we're doing something for dinner, having people over, going out for dinner, I want that foundation to last with minimal touching up and redoing. I also want something that's not going to accentuate my large pores, and that is pretty much it. So fine lines and pores, definitely something that lasts quite a long time with decent oil control and coverage. That's pretty much what I look for in a foundation, and I really like this foundation. The bottom line, I do really like this foundation. And in terms of finish, this is definitely not a matte foundation. It has more of a satin finish, and yet it does show some oil control on my skin. So it does certainly prevent the skin from getting too oily throughout the day, but yet still gives a nice kind of natural sheen. I'm going to cut right now to the demonstration where I show what my skin looks like before you actually apply the foundation, how it looks going on, and then as always, very importantly, how it wears throughout the day. Over my serum, I applied the Dermalogica Oil-Free Matte SPF 30. That's really important given that the Illamasqua skin base does not contain any SPF. I also used their new primer. This is their Skin Perfect primer, which also is SPF 30. SPF does not work, cumulatively, but better to make sure that you've got enough all over your face than not. This does also provide broad spectrum protection, UVA high protection. Really like that moisturizer waterproof, and then this primer is really nice. It is silicone based, has a very slight tint, and does help to cover the pores. So foundation reviews are never just foundation reviews. It's how it goes with your particular skin or the reviewer's particular skin, and then also how it interacts with all the other ingredients that you're using it on top of and underneath. So I did use a silicone based primer there from Dermalogica because the Illamasqua skin base is also more silicone based. I always shake my foundations, and you'll see when I do pop it on my hand, and it is definitely a liquid foundation, but it does sort of hold its shape mostly. My favorite way to apply pretty much any foundation is with a beauty blender. So I just do one tap to pick up some product from my hand, and then I just tap it all over my face. Do take note of the pigmentation on my face. That's a good starting point to see what the coverage is like for this foundation. So I just use my dampened beauty blender to blend this all over my face. So once I've blended it into my face and around my hairline, I do another tap with the beauty blender, and then I just make sure that my neck has that same colour so that it blends in with my face, and there's no line on the jawline. I just blend it down my neck so that it blends in with the rest of my body. And now with the neck blended in, I just use what's left on my hand to just cover over any areas on my face that do need a little bit more coverage. So it's usually, I joke and say that's all over my face again, but usually on my cheeks where I've got some hyperpigmentation and some more freckling, around my lower jawline and around here. Okay, so I hope that you were able to see during application that you really don't need much of this foundation to get a decent coverage. It does feel really quite natural. I think that it definitely does help my pores. That primer that I used from Dermalogica does also help to smooth out the pores, but I think that this foundation is particularly pore friendly. I think that the colour match is good for me. I'm probably an NC 25 right now, and I'm using the SB08. This is really easy to blend. It's just very emollient. It goes on very easily, whether it is with a sponge or a brush, and you certainly can build the coverage. It probably is, if you can see hopefully, a medium coverage that you can build. So I hope that you were able to get a good idea of how this foundation covers. Okay, so this is about 20 minutes after application. I have not powdered, although I will. I just wanted to come back and show you how the foundation sort of settles into the skin before powdering. So it's definitely not a matte finish. There is a bit of a sheen to the skin, but it does help to give a sort of natural finish to the skin. It certainly doesn't dry down matte or mask-like. It feels very natural on the skin in terms of weight and stickiness and all of that kind of thing. So it does feel really nice. Really quickly, this is just how it looks after the Laura Mercier loose setting powder has been applied. I did also use my Illamasqua bronzing duo today that I absolutely love. I used the highlighter and the bronzer, and then I used a little bit of the Illamasqua powder blush in Nymph. So this is how it looks after a quick spray of MAC Fix Plus. I will be back now much later in the day to show you how we wore. So here I am back again 11 hours after application. Unlike what I would do in the real world under normal circumstances, I have not touched up my face at all. I have not powdered down or added any other face products at all. So 11 hours later, I would say that there was never a really bad oil slick coming out on my face. Natural oils have come through a little bit more. You can probably see just a really slight sheen around the normal areas. My nose has a little bit more oil than it would have on application, but this is 11 hours after and with absolutely no touch up. So really happy with that foundation. Now when I look very closely, if I look at my chin area, which is often where makeup rubs off because I do, do this a lot, touch my chin a lot, all of that kind of thing. I do have makeup rubbed off here, but the foundation has such a natural finish that it really doesn't look all that conspicuous. It's just under really close inspection. I can see that the foundation has worn off here. So normally halfway through the day I would blot either with blotting papers or some kind of paper product, and then I would also use pressed powder as well, just to powder over the areas where there is a little bit more oil, and normally that would carry a foundation through to the end of the day, still looking, really decent. So this foundation, I would say, really does have decent longevity throughout the day. This is 11 hours now after application, and from other experiences when I have touched up this foundation, it has really looked really quite nice even after this sort of 11-hour period, which is what I would generally be wearing foundation for on a normal weekday. But the main things that I think you can take home from this is the way that it goes on. It looks absolutely beautiful and it stays looking really nice throughout the day. It would require a touch-up for me. I really don't mind a foundation requiring one touch-up. Any more than one touch-up in the normal length of a day, that's when I start having a problem. Or if the time to touch up is after 2 to 3 hours after application, that's when I'm really dissatisfied with a foundation. This one does just get sort of gradual throughout the day, but I'm pretty happy with this look. If I had a meeting with someone and had not had access to, you know, anything to touch up throughout the day, I would still feel quite confident in this foundation 11 hours later without any touch-up. So that's a pretty good test for me. I would say that my pores are still looking pretty decent and there isn't really any obvious areas of caking. I really do like the way that this looks. I like the way that it wears. I think it does have relatively decent oil control. While not at the very top of my list for oil control foundations, I think that it does fare very well on my combination oily skin, and it does just look quite lovely still at the end of the day in terms of a natural finish. Definitely a thumbs up here at this point, 11 hours after wear. I'm just going to touch up now and let you know how that looks. So it's literally 2 minutes later. I have just retouched up my Laura Mercier translucent loose powder, and I've also redone my Illamasqua bronzer and blush in Nymph, and that's it. Really, really happy with this finish. So I did keep the coverage that I was really quite happy with on application. It still looks really quite nice and natural. It certainly didn't oxidize and go a darker color on me. My pores are still looking decent. It's certainly not caking up or pooling into my pores, anything like that. I really like this foundation. It definitely gets a thumbs up from me. So there you have it. I do definitely give this foundation from Illamasqua a thumbs up. I do really enjoy it, and I will often go to this foundation when I'm after something that's very easy to apply, a nice medium coverage that's appropriate for all day type wear, and it's definitely a good color match for me. Definitely a satin finish that still really lasted quite well. I would always use a primer with this foundation and then always set with a powder. That's just how I use foundations, always with a primer underneath and a powder on top. And I do think it needs it for a combination skin. And then who I would recommend it for? Definitely I would recommend it for people like me who have a normal to combination oily skin tone. Do be careful if you are on the dry side. I would recommend getting a sample of that. And then if you are very oily, I would also be concerned about this product because it does have a satin finish, and I would think that oilier complexions than mine would probably want something a little bit more matte. So this is for someone then I would say that has more the normal to combination skin, someone that just wants that medium coverage that's going to last a decent length of time throughout the day. This is not a matte foundation, it's not a full coverage foundation, and it's not a foundation that's just going to last throughout the day into the night without touch up. It's just not. So if you're just wanting a nice foundation for day wear that's medium coverage with a nice satin finish that's going to be decent in the oil control, I would definitely recommend this foundation. And if you're living in Australia or you've heard about the fight for fair pricing from Illamasqua, you'll know that they've recently just lowered their pricing in Australia through Myer. We're now paying prices that are pretty much exactly the same, if not a little bit lower than our US counterparts. So this foundation used to sell for $65 from Myer in Australia. You can now get it for $41 from Myer with free shipping if you do order it online. If you are in America, you can get Illamasqua from Sephora or from Illamasqua's website, and you'll pay $42 in the States plus your state tax. And then on the UK site, it is £27, or if you go to the US currency on the UK website, it's going for $42.86. So Aussies, beware that we're paying $41, Americans are paying $42 plus state tax. So amazingly, somehow we're paying less than Americans. Now, where can you get Illamasqua? Ladies, in Australia, you can get Illamasqua from certain select stores in Australia, unfortunately nowhere on the West Coast. And also you can order wherever you are, I believe, in the world from Illamasqua's website. So thank you so much for watching this review. I do hope, as always, that you found it helpful. If you have any additional information to add to the comments, certainly please do add it. I do really appreciate that from you, and I know that other viewers certainly do appreciate that while they research other foundations. Illamasqua is a touch and go brand in terms of whether people actually have access to it in terms of a counter and swatching and being able to actually see and touch the product before they buy it. So any help is much appreciated. Thank you so much for watching. Have a beautiful day, and we'll see you again really soon. Bye.